I overheard my wife rehearsing her divorce. Big speech on the phone. He'll whimper like a wounded puppy, apologize, and sign like a good little errand boy. So I filed first and served her at her company awards ceremony. Hey Reddit, figured I'd finally share this wild ride I went through not too long ago. Thought I had the perfect relationship, steady life, everything on track. But turns out my wife was busy drawing up her own secret exit plan with a guy from work. I wasn't about to play the clueless husband she had in mind, so I flipped the script, stayed 10 steps ahead, and let the story play out on my terms. Here's how it went down. It's crazy how fast life can flip without warning. For me, it wasn't some fight. It wasn't catching her sneaking in late. Nothing obvious like that. It was a regular night, and I, Jackson, 31 male, was heading down the hallway when I heard her voice coming from the office. My wife Monica, 29 female, doesn't laugh much these days, at least not around me, so when I heard her laughing, I slowed down. It wasn't the normal kind of laugh you give someone you love either. It was sharp, mean, the kind of laugh people use when they're making fun of someone who's not in the room. I stopped by the door, not barging in, not snooping, just listening. Call it instinct. I know when something's off, and in that moment, I knew. Then I heard her words, clear as day. It's all lining up. I'll wait for the July bonus, then file. He'll whimper like a wounded puppy, apologize, and sign like a good little errand boy. Men like him always do. They're too scared to be alone. And then came the second laugh. Jane. Her cousin. I'd recognize that voice anywhere. The same Jane who never liked me, who once told Monica in front of me that I looked like the type of guy who would be loyal forever because no one else would want him. Back then, I brushed it off. Hearing her laugh now, while my wife plotted, made every hair on my neck stand up. I stood there, silent, absorbing every word. Not because I was shocked into stillness, but because I wanted to hear the whole plan. If she thought I was going to break down like some pathetic fool, she clearly didn't know who she married. They laughed again, longer this time, like they were celebrating it. That was all I needed. I didn't push open the door, I didn't tip my hand. I turned around, walked down the hall, and shut the bedroom door quietly behind me. My heart wasn't racing from fear. It was locked in, focused. I don't do scenes. I stay calm and move when it counts. And what I heard wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. Bullet points, timing. A plan built on the idea that I'd collapse the second she pulled the trigger. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, running it over in my head. Why July? Why wait for the bonus? What's she lining up behind my back? The questions kept stacking. She came to bed later, around midnight, kissed me on the cheek like everything was fine, switched off the lamp and rolled over. Business as usual. She had no idea I already knew. I didn't sleep. Not 1 second. I laid there listening to her breathing beside me, running her words on a loop. He'll whimper, apologize, and sign like a good little errand boy. Over and over. And the part that stuck hardest? She believed it. She wasn't saying it as a maybe. She was confident. She thought she had me figured out down to the reaction, like she had written my role in her exit plan. But lying there, something flipped inside me. Not loud, not messy, just clean. 12 hours earlier, I would have said I loved her more than anything. Now, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. That was the turning point. That was the night I decided I wasn't going to let her script play out. If she thought I'd grovel, she was about to learn different. Inside, I'd already moved on from being the guy she thought she could blindside. Because here's the truth, she underestimated me. She thought I was predictable, too soft to fight back. What she didn't realize is once I know the game, I don't just play it, I play to win. That night was the end of my marriage in every way that mattered. And it was also the start of something else, me taking control. The morning after I overheard that little divorce rehearsal felt different, not because anything obvious changed on the surface, but because my eyes were finally open. Once you hear your wife say she's lining you up like some clueless target, you can't unhear it. She texted me around lunch all smiley face emojis like nothing in the world was wrong, but I didn't see those messages the same anymore. Every word, every action, I filtered through what I heard the night before. And that's when all the little things I'd brushed off over the past year started coming back to me. There were the sudden girls' nights. Monica had always been social, but these weren't the same. These were last minute, no details, vague excuses. She'd throw on a dress, grab her purse, and be out the door before I could even ask who was going. And when she came back, she smelled like perfume, like she'd showered at someone else's place. I told myself not to overthink it. She deserved her fun. I let it slide. Money was another big one. She's the one who pushed to combine our accounts, said it would make tax time easier. I thought, sure, trust, transparency. But soon little amounts started going missing. $300 here, $600 there. She always had a quick answer. Annual renewals, bills, subscriptions. I'm not the type who nitpicks receipts, so I let it slide. That's on me. But now? Now I knew she wasn't just spending. She was staging. The craziest part is how I almost caught it earlier without even realizing. About 2 months before this, I checked the joint account and saw a jewelry store charge. Not a small one either. I figured, all right, maybe she bought me something for our anniversary. Or maybe even a gift for her mom. Weeks passed and nothing showed up. No ring, no necklace, nothing. I asked once, casually, and she brushed it off with some excuse about a coworker's birthday and a group gift. I left it alone. But standing there in the kitchen that morning, staring into my coffee, it hit me. That charge wasn't for me or some coworker. It was part of her other life. I realized something else, too. She'd been pulling away for a lot longer than I wanted to admit. I started replaying old moments almost obsessively, like reviewing game footage. Every conversation suddenly had a different tone. Every gap in her story suddenly had a meaning. The truth is, I'd been walking through a house full of cracks convincing myself it was just old paint. That morning I realized the whole place was about to collapse, and she was the one swinging the hammer. But here's where she miscalculated. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her July deadline. If she thought she had me cornered, she was wrong. I didn't tip my hand, though. That's the key. You don't win by reacting too fast. You win by letting your opponent think they've still got control. So I smiled, I nodded, I played along. By the end of that week, the fog was gone. I wasn't confused anymore. I knew what she was, I knew what she was planning, and I knew I had to get ahead of it. She thought I was blind. She thought I'd fold. What she didn't know was that I'd already started preparing. So after I started connecting the dots, I knew suspicion wasn't enough. Knowing in your gut is one thing, but if you really want to win, you need hard proof, solid evidence, something undeniable. Monica wasn't just pulling away or making mistakes. She was plotting, calculating. If she was taking it that far, I had to be smarter. I didn't rush. That's what a lot of people do. They hear something, confront too soon, and blow everything up before they've got the facts. That's not me. If she wanted a game, then I'd play it, but on my terms. No sloppy moves, no tells. The first real chance came one night while she was in the shower. I walked into the office and sat at her laptop like I'd done 100 times before. Back when things were good, she never minded me using it. But now, the password had changed. Of course it had. I leaned back, thought it through. Monica was smart, but she wasn't creative when it came to this kind of thing. I knew her go-to patterns. Our dog's name, her old college mascot, a couple of birthdays. I tried the first one. No good. Second one. Wrong again. Third one. Click. Just like that, I was in. Her desktop looked normal on the surface. Folders of spreadsheets, budget reports, templates. Nothing that screamed guilty. But one folder stood out. Final Q2. I don't work in finance, but I know enough to recognize that wasn't just work files. I opened it. At first, it was exactly what you'd expect. Projections, client reports, boring stuff. But when I scrolled further, one file stopped me cold. Upgradeplan.pdf. I clicked it open. And that's when I saw the real Monica. The one who'd been preparing my downfall like a presentation. The first page was a timeline. 2 columns. Before bonus and after bonus. Notes on maximizing her payout. Reminders to wait until July to file. She was literally scheduling my blindsiding around her paycheck. The second page was an asset breakdown. Everything we owned divided into neat little boxes. One side labeled as hers, the other side suspiciously thin. My car, the one I paid for, was on her list. Our joint savings? She planned to claim most of it. Even things that were obviously mine, she had written down with notes like argue personal gift. The third page hit harder. Draft emails. One literally titled attorney, ready to send when needed. She had already written out her version of events. In her story, she was the victim. I was the passive husband who wouldn't put up a fight. Her exact line, he won't grow a spine. He never does. He'll cry a little, then cave. I read that sentence 3 times. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I wanted it seared into my brain. She wasn't just leaving me. She was betting on me being weak. She thought she could predict every reaction, down to the tears and the signature at the bottom of the page. That was her biggest mistake. I didn't slam the laptop. I didn't take screenshots or start typing some dramatic message. That's not how you win. I plugged in a flash drive I had in my desk, copied the file quietly, and put it back exactly the way I found it. No trace, no changes. I closed the folder, cleared the history, and walked out. By the time she got out of the shower, I was back in bed scrolling my phone like nothing happened. She had no clue. Lying there later, I couldn't help but smirk. All this time she thought she was the mastermind, planning a clean exit. But by underestimating me, she gave me the biggest advantage. She thought I'd fold. She thought I'd play the role she wrote for me. Instead, she just handed me her playbook. And here's the thing. Once you know the game, everything changes. I started looking at it like a chess match. If she wanted July, then timing mattered. If she was claiming assets, then money was already being shifted around. If she thought I wouldn't fight, then she'd never see me coming. I laid there mapping it out in my head. Step 1, don't tip her off. Keep playing the husband she thinks she's manipulating. Step 2, gather everything. Not rumors, not suspicions, documents, statements, trails. Step 3, hit first, hit smart, hit hard. It was almost funny in a dark way. She thought she was the one planning. But the second I opened that file, the script flipped. She wasn't running the show anymore. I was. That night, I made myself a quiet promise. I wasn't going to be the man she wrote about in her notes. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to grovel. And I sure as hell wasn't going to sign whatever she put in front of me. She laid out her upgrade plan. I designed mine to dismantle it step by step. You know, the funny thing about knowing someone's planning against you is how quickly the mask becomes obvious. The smartest play was to keep her thinking I was still the same blind, predictable husband she wrote about in her notes. At breakfast, I'd ask her about her day like always, nodding along while she rambled about deadlines. At night, I'd help with dinner, make small jokes, kiss her goodnight. She had no idea I was cataloging every single thing she said, checking it against what I already knew. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I started gathering everything. Step 1 was locking down documents. I went through every drawer, every folder, every cabinet. Titles, tax returns, insurance papers. I scanned them all. To her, I was just dozing on the couch after work. In reality, I was uploading hundreds of pages into a hidden Gmail account I'd set up specifically for this mess. Then came the finances. I pulled copies of every bank statement I could find, highlighted withdrawals that didn't line up, noted dates of work trips against credit card charges for hotels and restaurants. One night, I pulled my credit report and almost laughed. 2 store lines I'd never opened were on there with me listed as an authorized user, tied to a P.O. box 2 cities over. Both maxed out. She'd added me without asking. That was the moment I realized her plan wasn't as airtight as she thought. She was sloppy. She thought I wouldn't look. But I wasn't just going to stop at paperwork. I needed eyes. Proof beyond numbers. That's when I decided to hire Hunter. Hunter was an older guy, ex-cop type. The kind of guy you take seriously the second you shake his hand. He showed up to our first meeting in a beat-up sedan, chewing sunflower seeds like he was born to tail people. "So, what's the gig?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. "Catch your wife sneaking around, right? Don't worry. I'm practically Yelp 5-star reviewed for that." I couldn't help but smirk. "It's not just that. She's planning something bigger. I need to know how deep it goes." Hunter popped another seed and grinned. "Ah, so we're talking deluxe package. The she's got spreadsheets and backup plans deal. Haven't had one of those in a while. Don't worry, I'll find your smoking gun. Or at least the cheap motel version of it." That sarcasm actually made me relax a little. The guy clearly knew his stuff, but he didn't take the job so seriously he'd spook me with paranoia. He'd get results, and he'd do it quietly. "I'll need 2 weeks minimum," he said, scribbling notes on a pad. 3 if she's slippery. You want daily updates, or you want the grand reveal?" "Grand reveal," I said. "She can't suspect a thing." Hunter nodded. "Smart. The dumb ones always rush in with half a story and get burned. You're playing it like chess, I can tell. Don't worry. I'll make sure when you get the report, you'll have enough to make her choke on it." With Hunter in motion, I doubled down on my performance at home. Monica must have thought she was killing it, because suddenly she turned the charm back on. She'd come home early some nights, cook dinner, even offer to rub my shoulders while I watched TV. One night she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You've been working out, haven't you?" I almost laughed. No, I hadn't. But she was laying it on thick, trying to keep me calm and complacent while she lined up her perfect exit. I played right along. She thought she had me exactly where she wanted me. Good. Let her think that. Because while she was planning fake vacations, I was building the case that was going to gut her entire strategy. I kept digging, found emails she'd half deleted but forgot were archived in another folder, screenshots of Venmo transfers to names I didn't recognize, charges for hotel bars that didn't line up with any conference she'd ever mentioned. I didn't react to any of it. I just documented, organized, built a clean timeline. All the while, I was waiting for Hunter's call. 2.5 weeks later, it came. I was at work when my phone buzzed. "You're gonna want to sit down for this," Hunter said, his voice dry. "Go ahead," I told him. "I'll send you the full report, but the short version? Your wife's got herself a finance bro sidekick. Goes by Nick. Tall, clean cut, looks like he irons his socks. They've been checking into hotels together 4 times in the last 2 months. Always under his name, but guess who shows up in the photos?" My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice calm. "Send me everything," Hunter chuckled. "Already did. Enjoy the slideshow. Oh, and just so you know, I got video too. Shot it myself from the bar patio. You're gonna love this one. She tells Loverboy you're just a placeholder. Exact words. Nick, you're the future." For a second, I just sat there staring at my phone. Not angry, not broken, just done. She thought I was the placeholder. She thought she was trading up. "Appreciate it, Hunter," I said finally. "No problem," he replied. "Always nice to work a case where the target makes it this easy." Honestly, she should have just hired a skywriter to confess. I hung up, and when Hunter's report landed in my inbox, it wasn't just pictures. It was a damn highlight reel of betrayal. He didn't miss a thing. Photos of Monica and Nick holding hands across a cafe table, checking into hotels like clockwork, slipping into his car late at night, and then there was the video. Grainy, but it was Hunter's phone clip from the bar patio. Monica leaning into him, laughing, touching his arm. Then her lips moving in perfect sync with the words Hunter warned me about. "He's just a placeholder. Nick, you're the future." I must have replayed that clip a dozen times. Not because I didn't believe it the first time, but because it hit me differently every time I watched it. A placeholder. After everything I'd done, everything I'd carried, all the nights I covered for her late deadlines and stress, I was just a placeholder until something shinier came along. And you know what? I didn't even feel rage. That surprised me. I expected anger, maybe heartbreak, maybe the urge to smash something. Instead, all I felt was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. The switch had been flipped weeks ago when I heard her plotting. This just confirmed it. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a liability, a problem to solve. That's when I called Kate. Kate Parker wasn't just a lawyer. She was a shark with a law degree. A friend of mine had recommended her, and the second I sat down in her office, I knew why. She didn't waste time on fake sympathy or hand-holding. She listened, took notes, and cut straight to the point. "All right," she said, sliding her glasses up her nose. "Walk me through it from the top. No fluff, dates, evidence, behavior." So I did. The overheard conversation, the upgrade plan file, the suspicious money, and now the PI's report. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and let out a low whistle. "Well, Jackson, I'll be blunt. Your wife's not just cheating. She's sloppy. And in divorce court, sloppiness is expensive." That made me smirk. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. She tapped her pen against her notepad. "She's banking on you folding. That's her whole angle. He won't fight. That's leverage for us. You've already got infidelity documented, financial deceit, potential marital fraud with those credit cards. If you file first, you control the narrative. We can lock in her bonus, freeze joint assets, and push for a clean split with no alimony. You could walk away not only whole, but ahead." I nodded. "That's the plan. I'm not giving her the satisfaction of thinking she blindsided me." Kate cracked a small smile. "Good. I like clients who want to win, not cry. Now here's what we do." For the next 2 hours, she laid it all out. What documents I needed to gather, what accounts to freeze, what legal loopholes we could exploit. She flagged hotel charges that counted as marital fraud. She showed me how to subpoena records if we needed them. She even drafted the initial filing right there in front of me, her fingers flying over the keyboard, like she'd done this 1,000 times. Which, let's be real, she probably had. I walked out of her office with a binder of instructions and the kind of confidence you only get when you know you're holding the stronger hand. Monica thought she was 5 steps ahead, but she didn't know I'd already seen the whole playbook. At home, I kept the act going. She floated around the house humming, smiling more than usual, even kissing me on the cheek when she passed. Probably thought she was a genius for keeping me in the dark. I played right along, asked her about her day, complimented her dinner, even brought up that fake summer vacation again, just to watch her light up. The more smug she got, the funnier it was to me. She was living in a bubble, convinced she was orchestrating everything. Meanwhile, I was setting her up for a checkmate she'd never see coming. That weekend, Hunter dropped off the physical copy of his report. "You know, he said, sliding the envelope across my kitchen table. I almost feel bad for her. Almost. She's not even creative. Same hotel, same routine, same idiot grin every time. You'd think after all this she'd at least switch it up. I chuckled. Guess she thought I'd never look. Hunter shrugged. Most guys don't. But hey, you're not most guys. You actually played it smart. You didn't storm in swinging, you gathered everything. That's why you're gonna walk out of this clean, and she's gonna be the one eating dirt. I respected the hell out of that. Hunter wasn't sugarcoating anything. He was right. Most people would have cracked by now. Not me. Later that night, I sat alone with the evidence spread out on the table. The photos, the receipts, the timelines, the upgrade plan file. Her own words printed in black and white. He won't fight. I laughed, out loud, to myself. You miscalculated, Monica. You forgot who you married. Because the truth was simple. She wanted me broken, begging, predictable. Instead, I was about to flip her perfect plan on its head. The next morning, I called Kate again. File it, I said. Already ahead of you, she replied. By the time she even thinks about seeing a lawyer, we'll be halfway through the process. That was music to my ears. Monica thought she had time. She thought she could milk July for her bonus, get her ducks in a row, then drop the bomb on me. What she didn't realize was that her timeline was gone. I was moving now, on my schedule, with her entire playbook in my hands. I didn't confront her, didn't slam evidence on the table. That's what she expected. That's what weak men do. Instead, I let her keep smiling, keep humming, keep living in her fake little world. Because I knew what was coming. And when it would hit in front of everyone she wanted to impress. This wasn't about revenge speeches or yelling matches. This was about execution. Cold, precise execution. She thought she was playing chess. What she didn't realize was that the game was already over. And lucky me, the timing couldn't have been better. Monica's company held their annual employee awards ceremony every spring. It wasn't just another work function. It was the event. Management showed up in suits, certificates and plaques were handed out, cameras flashed nonstop, and every employee tried to look like they were next in line for a promotion. And this year, Monica wasn't just attending, she was hosting. She'd been buzzing about it for weeks. I'd hear her pacing around the living room, practicing her opening lines, bragging about how she wanted the whole thing to feel professional but fun. Nick's name slipped into those rehearsals more than once. She never mentioned it directly to me, but it was obvious he'd be up there with her, shoulder to shoulder. That made it the perfect stage. Not just to file, but to burn her little fantasy down in front of the exact crowd she wanted to impress. Getting in was easy. I'd built event templates for them a couple years back. And guess what? They never bothered rotating the portal password. I logged in, pulled up the spouse or +1 guest form, entered my name under Monica's RSVP, and printed out the guest badge from their own template. Slipped it into a lanyard, and I was set. The package? A plain white bakery box tied with twine. Inside was the official service that had already been handled by Kate's licensed process server an hour earlier. This was just theater. Copies of the filed petition, Hunter's photos, hotel receipts, bank records. Right on top of the lid, taped to heavy stationery, a note in my handwriting. You rehearsed the speech. I skipped to the ending. No need to whimper. I'm already gone. I parked a block away and walked into the building carrying the box. The lobby was buzzing with employees in business casual and guests clutching name tags. The receptionist glanced at mine, smiled, and waved me through without a second thought. The ballroom was exactly what I pictured. Banners, buffet tables tucked against the walls, rows of chairs facing a stage with a podium and projector screen. Monica stood front and center in a floral dress, microphone in hand, beaming like she'd already won something herself. Nick was right beside her in his suit, hovering close enough that it looked like he'd already replaced me. She spotted me instantly. For half a second, her smile cracked, but she pulled it back, probably assuming I'd shown up to play the doting husband one last time. I walked calmly up the center aisle and set the box down on the table beside the podium. Official service was already done. This was the encore. Early congratulations gift, I said loud enough for the front row to hear. Her grip tightened on the microphone. Jackson, what are you... I didn't bother answering. I gave her the smallest smile, turned, and walked out. The whispers started before I reached the halfway mark. Someone up front muttered, "Is that paperwork?" Another whispered, "She's shaking." Chairs creaked as people leaned forward, craning to get a better look. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. The silence swelling behind me told me enough. Her carefully staged night had just collapsed. At the door, a guy frowned and whispered, "Isn't that her husband?" I smirked. Not for long. Then I kept walking. By the time I hit the parking lot, my phone buzzed 3 times. Her cell, her office line, and her mother. I shut it off and tossed it in the glove box. That same night, I didn't waste time. Per Kate's advice and the temporary occupancy order, I had the locks changed that afternoon. Her smart lock code and garage PIN were already dead. I taped a note to the front door at eye level. Access removed. Contact Kate Parker for everything. Then I drove to Drew's. He was out back by the grill when I pulled up. "You look lighter already," he said, flipping a steak. "I just delivered the news," I told him. He raised an eyebrow. "Clean? Cleaner than she ever expected." We ate, watched an old action flick, and laughed like it was any normal Friday. Meanwhile, Monica was probably still standing in that ballroom, staring at a bakery box that had gutted her career image in front of everyone. That weekend, she blew up my phone. I ignored every call. By Sunday night, she showed up outside Drew's apartment, knocking like she owned the place. I stayed upstairs while Drew answered. He opened the door calm as ever, handed her a printed copy of her own upgrade plan.pdf, and shut it again without a word. She stood frozen for a second before storming off. I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. She'd wanted to play assassin, cut me out, and blindside me when it suited her. Instead, she got ambushed with her own blueprint. And the best part? No screaming, no messy fight, no scene. Just clean execution. Truth dropped in a white box with a bow. By Monday morning, fallout was already hitting. HR had Nick under review. Monica was temporarily reassigned to another department. Her co-workers weren't circling the wagons. They'd seen the documents, the photos, the receipts. Her polished image had collapsed in real time. And me? I was already gone. Out of the house, lawyer pushing paperwork, no more back and forth. She thought she was playing chess. Truth was, she'd just been moving pawns on a board I'd solved months ago. By the time she realized that, it was too late. The divorce hearing was the easiest part of the whole ordeal. After everything, I half expected Monica to show up in full performance mode. Tears, excuses, begging the judge to believe she was the victim. Instead, she sat there like she was half deflated, eyes darting anywhere but mine. Kate, my lawyer, had already stacked the deck. Every receipt, every message, every shady work trip Monica tried to bill as training was laid out like a buffet for the judge. It took less than 30 minutes for the decision to come down. I got the house, my accounts untouched, and she walked away with nothing. I kept the house as an asset and signed a lease across town. Fresh walls, no memories. She tried one weak swing at spousal support. Kate didn't even flinch. She dropped the documentation of Monica's double-dipping expense scams and misuse of company cards. And the judge almost laughed. Claim denied. The sound of the gavel hit like a full stop. And just like that, the chapter was closed. I walked out without looking back. The fallout at her office was worse than anything I could have planned. HR had started digging after the potluck stunt. Nick, her big romantic prize, resigned a week later for personal reasons. Translation: they caught him abusing funds and skipping ethics rules. He bolted before the firing notice hit. Monica wasn't so lucky. They didn't fire her, but they stripped her out of the spotlight. She went from hosting team events and giving speeches to being tucked in a side cubicle, the kind where no one even knows your nameplate is there. Hunter sent me screenshots of her coworkers whispering about the potluck. Apparently, someone had pulled the papers out of the bakery box and spread the word around. To them, she wasn't the sharp, ambitious manager anymore. She was the woman whose husband nuked her career day. Nick's name was linked to hers in every hallway conversation. She had dreamed of climbing higher, and instead, she hit the ceiling head first. Meanwhile, I set up shop in my new place. No memories tied to her. No fake smiles hanging on the walls. Drew and Hunter came over the first weekend to help me furnish it. Hunter immediately pointed at my old boxes of throw pillows and said, "Man, you lived with her too long. Alpha dudes don't do decorative pillows." Drew backed him up, laughing like it was the funniest crime I'd committed. I tossed the pillows in the donation pile without a second thought. The new place wasn't just a reset. It was proof that I could cut her out completely and still stand taller than before. Every corner of that apartment felt like mine. Sleek couch, gaming setup in one corner, solid desk in the other. No Monica-approved furniture, no passive-aggressive notes about shoes by the door. Just clean space and quiet. For the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling like someone was rehearsing a script behind me. I didn't bother keeping tabs on her directly, but things reached me anyway. One of our old mutual friends tried to bridge the gap, telling me Monica had been acting like a ghost at work, avoiding eye contact with people who used to look up to her. I just shrugged. It wasn't my problem anymore. She burned the bridge, and now she had to walk through the ashes barefoot. Hunter, of course, wouldn't let me have a quiet victory without commentary. He dropped by with pizza one night, and halfway through a slice said, "She thought you were the pawn, man. You didn't just flip the board, you walked off with all the pieces." He chuckled like it was the best sports recap he'd ever given. I didn't disagree. That's exactly what it felt like. Monica once believed she was directing the entire play. Me as the clueless husband, Nick as the secret lover, and her as the lead actress who would step into her new life without anyone catching on. But I never gave her the performance she wanted. No crying, no begging, no chasing after her. I let her write her fantasy, and then I shredded the ending in front of her entire office. The best part was how simple it ended up being. No screaming match, no plates thrown across the kitchen, no dragging fights over furniture, just paperwork, timing, and precision. She rehearsed her speech. I skipped to the ending. By the time she realized, the lights were already off and the audience had left the theater. I don't pretend like I came out some hero. I didn't need to. I came out clean, sharper, and free. Monica, on the other hand, has to wake up every morning knowing she torched her reputation, lost her job partner, and got written out of my life with zero chance of crawling back. That's the kind of punishment that sticks. I leaned back on my new couch that night, controllers on the table, and realized there was nothing left to fix. No loose ends, no half-truths. Just a new life waiting to be lived on my terms. She wrote a script where I cried, begged, and signed. Instead, I rewrote the ending. No tears, just freedom. She said I'd cry and sign whatever she wanted. I didn't cry. She ended up signing everything.